Audi private testing.
A sharp item punctured the left rear tyre, throwing the car off the track.
A Formula One legend crashed where he shouldn't have been. Michele Alboreto was retired, but once more trapped in a nightmare. However, the crash was only the surface.
The last Italian driver to have been personally chosen by Enzo Ferrari.
To understand why, we need to go back to 1983, when Italy was searching for its hero. At Ferrari, being Italian wasn't a blessing but a curse. Ascari, Castellotti, Bandini. 3 heroes, all gone in red. Enzo swore he would never take another Italian again, because the pressure and expectations were too great. Yet when he saw the young talent at Tyrrell, his resolve began to break, and he wasn't the only one.
Well, he's had a very good practice, and he was quick in the wet, he was quick in the dry, and this marvellous new Ford engine that we have, and we had the right tyres with Goodyear. All we needed was Michele to trundle it round.
With that, the reins of Ferrari for the 1984 F1 Championship are handed to Michele Alboreto, and Italy's impossible dream of an Italian champion in a Ferrari felt real again. And just in the third race, the magic happens.
Into the final Jackie X chicane. The crowd starting to cheer as he comes into sight on the start-finish line. The Ferrari takes the checkered flag. Michele Alboreto wins the opening European race.
What an absolutely magnificent drive by Michele Alboreto. His first win for Ferrari.
It felt like this man had pulled Ferrari out of the dark ages. And no, not the era of bad strategies or internet memes, but something far more severe. Villeneuve was Ferrari's star for 1982. If he hadn't crashed, there was a high chance of him winning the championship. However, the crash didn't end there.
Former Grand Prix driver Didier Pironi and 2 other Frenchmen were killed today when their powerboat crashed off the Isle of Wight.
Only a few races later, his teammate met the same fate. Pironi was leading the championship when he crashed. Ferrari didn't lose drivers, they lost champions. And Michele, he had raced with them. Alboreto had carried it all to Scuderia and drove anyway, finally moving towards something magnificent, an Italian in a Ferrari. It felt like a prophecy. With the mighty McLarens of Lauda and Prost, along with half the field succumbing to mechanical issues, Alboreto got a strong footing in the driver's standings. F1's return to Nürburgring marked one of Alboreto's most memorable races. His Ferrari was running dangerously low on fuel, and Nelson Piquet was closing in fast. Still, he nursed his car to the end and crossed the line in second, with the fastest lap of the race. This glamour definitely got carried to Monza, the Vatican for Ferrari, home race for the driver and the team. The Tifosi finally got what they had dreamed of. Alboreto crossed the line in second, and the crowd erupted in song and flags, as if the prophecy was coming true. For a moment, it felt like Ferrari was coming back, but from then on, the title slipped away. Not because of him. The car had failed him in half the races. Even so, he finished 4th in the standings, proving Ferrari didn't need a new driver. They just needed a car to match him. 1985 begins like a rope pulled tight. In the first race, he took pole position once again, and despite fierce pressure from Prost, Alboreto held on strong to claim second place. It was a statement that Alboreto was charging.
There is Prost finishing. There finishing is the Ferrari of Michele Alboreto.
During the next race in Portugal, Senna was the man to beat. He had lapped every single car on the grid, except for one chasing him with sheer conviction. It was Alboreto, producing another P2 finish.
Senna sprays both Alboreto and third man Tombe.
In Monaco, if you stop, your race is over. Unfortunately for Michele, everything went wrong right from the start.
And that's Piquet's car and Patrese going off. Riccardo Patrese is off.
And that is Alboreto.
The puncture held him back into chaos, but lap after lap, he clawed his way forward until he was side by side with Prost for the lead, when suddenly...
As Prost goes through, Prost retakes that lead from Michele Alboreto on lap 32.
A puncture ends most races. For Alboreto, it lit the chase.
In the JPS Lotus Renault is second, as Alboreto goes through and takes that second position.
And P2 is why he finished the race. Canada was a turning point for him.
He's done it, he's done it, he's done it. An enormous crowd rushed up there to their feet and yelled. We can hear them in here.
He finally won, and he was finally in the lead after battling legends like Senna, Prost and Lauda. But Ferrari was always Ferrari, and in the second half of 1985, Alboreto's car kept breaking down. Desperate, the team abandoned their German KKK turbo for an American alternative. However, the V6 was never built for it, and the switch only made things worse.
And that must be Alboreto. That will be the turbo, the oil in the turbo.
And he will certainly realise that he is out of the World Championship. No points again.
As a result, Alboreto finished second in the 1985 Drivers' Championship. It was heartbreaking for him since he had led in the beginning, he had pushed, and when the car held together, he had delivered results.
Veramente non è che fossi molto felice, perché ovviamente se tu sai che puoi arrivare e però non hai più il mezzo per arrivarci, è chiaro che insomma non è che sei felice.
After 1985, Michele Alboreto stayed with Ferrari, loyal and hopeful that the team would rise again. Does it remind you of anyone?
Had already been lapped, so Leclerc lets him go. Leclerc is not happy about that pit stop.
But by 1988, suddenly everything changed. Enzo Ferrari was gone. The man who had built Ferrari's legend, who personally chose Michele, was no longer there, and the team's spirit shifted overnight. That year, Monza offered one last glimpse of the old Ferrari magic.
Senna leading by 11 seconds. Berger there second. Alboreto there.
A 1-2 finish that felt like a farewell.
Gerhard Berger hasn't been held up. They're coming up to the checkered flag, and it's a Ferrari victory at home at Monza.
But Michele could sense it. Ferrari was no longer the same. By the next year, he would leave Maranello behind, for good. He bounced from team to team. Tyrrell, LaRousse, Minardi. As you can imagine, he was not fighting for podiums, but for points. Results faded, and so did his place on the grid. By 1994, Alboreto walked away from Formula One, but it was a departure with freedom, because now he could speak his mind, and that voice would become central to one of the most horrific accidents in racing history.
L'incidente ad Ayrton, quanto ha pesato su Michele? Perché poi di fatto quella è stata la sua ultima stagione. Io penso che da lì abbia visto il mondo della Formula 1 in un modo diverso.
When Alboreto testified during the investigation, his words carried the quiet authority of someone who'd been there. I am convinced that Senna's crash was caused by mechanical failure, not driver error. No steering wheel moves a few centimeters unless something is broken, because for 3 long years, his crash was eerily similar to Senna's. He crashed at the same spot Ayrton died 3 years later. Michele's crash was caused by mechanical failure. The front wing mount broke, and Alboreto lost steering instantly. It was the same story as many other accidents at that corner, especially Senna's. Michele Alboreto spent over a decade in Formula One, and despite his countless missed opportunities, he never stopped showing up, and his consistency made endurance racing the perfect next step in his career. Le Mans 1997 proved he was right to choose the Yost team. From the very first laps, with the pole already his, Porsche WSC 95 was suddenly on everyone's radar.
Michele Alboreto in the Yost Porsche against Bob Warlick in the Porsche GT1. The battle for position continues throughout the field. Through the first chicane, the Porsche GT leading. Then comes the Yost Porsche, followed by the Nissan.
He lost the lead, dropped back a few places, but he was back in no time.
Alboreto now, looking to take over the lead, and he does. A prototype is out in front, thanks to a great use of the slipstream.
Alboreto managed his pace, his fuel stops, his driver's changes, every strategy adjustment as coolly as he'd managed his throttle through the night. But the sister car, the Porsche 911, got the lead again. But right towards the end, the situation changed.
Decisive moment. The Porsche 911 catches fire and then rolls off the course. And now the Yost Porsche is out in front.
When the checkered flag finally dropped, car number 7 was leading, 2 laps ahead of the car in second, and 4 laps ahead of the car in third.
Michele Alboreto is already waving to the crowd on this, the last lap.
Michele Alboreto, Stefan Johansson, and Tom Christensen win the hardest endurance race in the world. It's the 15th time a Porsche has taken the title.
For a driver who had battled broken cars, politics, and heartbreak, winning in the most prestigious race in all of motorsport history was redemption. Continuing the legacy, in 1999, Alboreto transitioned into the emerging Audi R8R with Yost, scoring P4 at Le Mans, and his partnership would flourish, more moving into 2000, where he won Petit Le Mans, bringing Audi its first major US endurance victory, and in March 2001, winning the 12 Hours of Sebring with Audi. But this would all change in Audi's private test on April 5th, 2001, Lausitzring, Germany.
È morto Michele Alboreto.
At 45 years old, the last Italian driver to have been personally chosen by Enzo Ferrari.
During a run at over 300 kilometers an hour, 186 miles per hour, Alboreto's car suddenly went out of control in the high-speed banking. The vehicle flipped, cleared a guardrail, and landed upside down. Rescue teams reached the wreck within 2 minutes, and a medical helicopter arrived shortly after, but Alboreto was pronounced dead at the scene. A full investigation by DECRA and Audi engineers to determine the cause of the accident.
A sharp item punctured the left rear tyre, throwing the car off the track and out of control.
He was a real gentleman. I mean, this was the real memory I have of him. He was a straightforward guy, always friendly, always nice, did a very good job in racing.
I raced against him in '79 in Formula 3, and he was always what I call a gentleman, and you don't have too many. I mean, I can think about, without telling names, maybe 4 or 5 that I met in 20 years, and he was one of them.
That's how sadly and unexpectedly Alboreto's story ended. In Monza, the fastest corner now bears his name, Curva Alboreto. But he wasn't the only legend taken too soon. Ayrton Senna's story would echo the same heartbreak. Click to see what happened next.